Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at wafl.com.au.
Yes, win-win big, and get yourselves to a game this weekend, especially this one. Swan Districts and Claremont on Saturday. This one has Game of the Year contender written all over it. Both sides in winning form. Swan Districts looking for 7 in a row. Claremont looking for 6 wins in a row. Those mighty Swans, they'll look to pack out Steel Blue Oval on Saturday with this big game. Joining us is their coach. He's the talk of the town in this state after another great win by the Swans, and they're looking for 7 in a row. Andrew PRUYN'S good enough to join us here on Around the WAFL. Good morning, Andrew. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good day. How are we?
Going very well. Great to have you here on Around the WAFL. They're a great side, aren't they, Swan Districts? I mean, you've led them very well, and they're at the moment in the top 3. It's a great turnaround, isn't it, from 12 months ago?
Oh, it's something we've been building towards, and yeah, just getting a little bit of reward for effort now.
And the maturity of the group obviously has grown quite a lot since 2023. Someone who's just taken the competition by storm with his return is Lee Coleman. Has he exceeded your own expectation? Because bags every week and the way he's conducted himself, I mean, you must just be so rapt to have him around the club.
Oh, we're super excited to have Lee back at the club. When we went out and got him, we had really good belief in his ability, probably more so than what Lee did. I think with most players, they get mature plus that 3-year age mark, they really start to understand their game, get comfortable in their role within teams. And you've got to remember they've experienced so many circumstances over and over. It only comes with experience and games played. So we're really rapt to have Lee.
We say earlier that this side's great to watch because of their free-flowing attacking game. Going back to the win over West Perth by 63 points, that was really what that first half was all about. Free-flowing attacking, typical Swan Districts football with what we've seen across the season.
Yeah, it was. It was a good watch. Didn't know where it was going to end at one point. It was like quarters were long and goals were flowing. But it's exciting brand. It's good for the boys to play, good for people to watch.
And, everyone talks about the interstate signings, but what about the young guys coming through? You think of guys like Luke Kelly, Max Chipper, these guys must keep you on your toes and, very exciting for them as well, being able to learn off the older guys.
Yeah, I think that's the difference in your side. You talk about your 3 or 4, but really it's your bottom 8 that make the difference.
I also want to ask you, I wanted to ask you this for some weeks about, what's that old saying, age is just a number for one player in particular, Tony Knott. Early this season, he reached 300 games. It was a monumental mark. Now he's looking to overtake in the next couple of weeks the great Billy Walker on 306 games. What's it like having someone like Knotty in your side, has to travel a long way, work and training and playing and all that. What's it like to have someone there in your team that is as loyal as anything? He's got the heart of the mighty Swan, doesn't he?
Yeah, we're so blessed, not only as a competition, to have people like Tony Knott still playing within our competition. For Tony, I think he equals Bill Walker's 305 this, which we'll celebrate really hard, and we'll have a guard of honour, and Bill will be out around, and it'll be a great occasion for us. But Tony Knott's just testament of hard work and dedication of and what they're able to achieve.
What are you going to note for against Claremont? Of course, Claremont, they're on a rampage as well. They're looking for 6 wins in a row. What have you noticed about this Claremont side that you'll take into account for your side heading into that massive game on Saturday?
Their form line of late's been fantastic. 5 on the trot, and they've got a really hard about them now. I'm playing sort of that real contested brand footy, and their midfield is just first class with the likes of Bolton, Rogers going through there, and they've really smart, crafty forward line. So plenty of power there on their side.
They certainly have got plenty of it, but so have your side as well. Good luck on Saturday. That massive game at Steel Blue Oval, expecting a big crowd. Thanks for your time, Andrew. All the very best for Saturday and for the rest of the season.
Thanks, boys. Cheers.
That was Andrew Prune, the coach of the Swan Districts Football Club, joining us here on Around the WAFL. I think it's an understatement to say that this is a big game for both Andrew Prune and Ashley Prescott of the Claremont Football Club, coach of the Claremont side, because one wrong move could spell disaster.
Yeah, you want to keep that winning streak alive, so to speak. I think he seems quite content and measured, you know. There's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of build-up, but he knows that there's still a long way to go. They haven't really achieved anything yet while they sit pretty on third. It's you don't want to get carried away. So I think it's business as usual for
Absolutely. That's a great approach to have for, a coach like Andrew Prune, who's got a great side at his disposal, but still a lot of weeks to go before, they can celebrate a really big season. They're in the double chance at the moment. Can they keep it that way? Swan Districts and Claremont, you can catch that one live on Channel 7 Saturday from 2:40. It's set to be an absolute beauty. Speaking of, here's some good waffle merch you can check out here. Introducing the WAFL Merch Shop, your ultimate destination for all things WAFL. From jerseys to scarves to caps, show your support for the WAFL in style. Grab exclusive merchandise now and gear up to cheer louder than ever before. Visit shop.wafl.com.au today and let your passion shine. Shop.wafl.com.au. They are selling like hotcakes with maple syrup, Rothy, and if anyone dares to disagree that they are good, well, then there's something wrong with them. They are that damn good waffle merchandise.
Yeah, getting quick, probably going to sell out very soon. So I imagine place those orders quickly.
Absolutely, and do so right now. Shop.wafl.com.au. Let's get to the games for round 15. Only 3 games this weekend. Starting things off with a morning match at Mineral Resources Park in Lathlane at 11:10. West Coast and West Perth live on the AFL app. It's a battle of the cellar dwellers, isn't it? To be honest with you, both at the bottom end of the ladder. But I reckon this game would be the best chance for both the Eagles and the Falcons to sample some more of the young blood as well, to give them some mileage in the legs and look forward to the future.
Yeah, and West Perth, I think they deserve to be favourites this one. I guess battle of the strugglers, you could say, but West Perth have a reasonably good record over West Coast. They've given them some pumpings in recent years, and West Coast, they like the morning games, the specialty of the morning games.
Well, they have won all their morning games so far this season. That's what they've done very well. Yeah,
I think West Perth will obviously like to beg to differ in that front for this week, but the young kids, as you said, it's just West Perth. Can they get it together for 4 quarters? I don't have any concerns of their ability to start games. It's just their lapses and maybe the back half of games as well. And I think the Eagles I don't know if they're capable of winning. I think West Perth are better than we think.
I actually think the Eagles are capable of winning. I actually think so because they too have got some good young kids in their best 22. You look at James Spatanuda; he had his good moments against Peel Thunder last week. Cohen Livingston, I reckon he can match up well against Brock Carter. Andrew Gaff, well, he's Andrew Gaff. I mean, come on, he's going to rack up those disposals every day of the week. Ryan Marich and Harley Sparks, I reckon they could take Black and Meadows off their game. I still think West Perth's experience is going to tell the story in this game, but I reckon West Coast can make the game a little bit closer. They've got what it takes.
I don't fully disagree with you. I just think West Perth are still, while they're not a finals caliber side in 2024, it seems, I think they should take care of the Eagles in this one. But hey, I've been surprised before. I've definitely been wrong before, to say the least. And West Coast,
well, at least you weren't wrong with the West Coast game over Perth in Northam a few weeks ago.
Keep coming back to that one. Hopefully I can have a few more rather than just go back to that as my
moment of gold.
Moment of gold for the season, my highlight of the year.
I reckon so. That will be your highlight of the season, but there will be a few more still remaining. With that in mind, who wins?
Yeah, West Perth for mine.
West Perth for me as well, but I don't think it'll be a one-sider. I reckon West Coast will keep competitive, but I think West Perth, they need to get their finishing in order. There's still some of that complacency I'm sensing, especially with some of the experienced guys.
I think if I have to make a prediction, I reckon Tyler Keitel could kick a big bag in this one. I think he could kick a 7 or an 8er.
Well, he's been in good form in the last couple of weeks. He kicked 6 against Perth, then kicked 5 against Swan Districts the week after. So he's got 11 goals in the last 2 games. So he's been in terrific form.
Against West Coast a year or 2 back from memory
as well. Yes, he did. That's right. I think it was a round 2 game where West Perth absolutely pounded the Eagles to oblivion that day. But it'll be an interesting game. A game in the morning at 11:10 at Mineral Resources Park. West Coast and West Perth. Then we go way down south to Lane Group Stadium in Mandurah for the grand final rematch. Grand final rematch in Mandurah 2, that is, because obviously East Fremantle, with their game being moved from East Fremantle Oval to Lane Group Stadium, it'll still be their home game at 2:30. You can see that one live on the AFL app. Must win for East Fremantle, and I can't emphasise that enough. If they win, they stay alive. Lose, they're done.
Yeah, and there's probably no better time to get a team like Peel, because if you lose when, as you said, they're done, but it's like, are they actually up for the challenge?
That's the thing. Are they going to sense the urgency? They need to, because, they look at what they've done over the last couple of weeks. Okay, they didn't get the job done against Claremont, but they needed to grind a big win out against Perth, and they did that in the slippery conditions. We're expecting different conditions, however. It's going to be nice and sunny out there, so the rain can bugger off, at least for this week. But I reckon the game's going to be a battle of the backlines.
I think it will be as well, and expect someone like Ethan Hughes as well to be really cherry ripe for that. Other end of the ground, your Voss. It's interesting. Like, I think Erdley might go to Voss or spend some time on him, and then Hughes will probably go to someone like a Marsh or spend time at least. I'm not saying they'll play him in the full game, but it's like similar sort of undersized defenders. But they very much play above their height and play above what they're sort of expected to.
That'll be a great matchup, especially Erdley versus Voss. I reckon if Erdley is able to shut down Voss, then that could nullify Peel's impact up forward in that game. But Peel have still got some good depth up forward, and I reckon that could make a difference for the Thunder. You've got the likes of Tregenza as well. You've got the likes of Taberner as well. He kicked 4 goals last week against the West Coast Eagles. So I reckon as far as a forward depth is concerned, Peel Thunder have the better of it.
They do, and obviously we know how big of an out someone like a Jupp is to counter that as well. So another interesting one is the Sharks' record at Lane Group as well. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it hasn't been good. They've lost their last 3 over in Mandurah, including a close one in round 1 last year and again in round 1 this year. So, they'd want to put that record behind them, and they want to do it in a big way because it's their real danger game. I reckon this is their grand final.
Yeah, as you said, it's now or never. No tomorrow for them. And, it's time to stand up and show everyone what they're made of.
Watch out for Milan Murdoch as well. I reckon he can burst through the pack in the midfield again and really out-muscle the likes of Reedy, Brody, Erasmus and company as well. So he'll be one to watch out for in the middle.
Yeah, he will be. So quick, so in and under, you sort of he gets probably more than what you think, because he's just so many little disposals in and under. He does the dirty work, and every time they get a clearance or anything like that, it's more often than not through Murdoch.
They need a couple of more marking players, East Fremantle, because they're averaging 13 less compared to Peel Thunder, 92 to 79. That's the key stat of the game, no doubt about that. With that in mind, it's a tough game to pick. Who wins?
It is a tough game to pick, and it's curveballs everywhere because East Fremantle, the home side listed.
Just gets weirder by the day.
Yeah, it's hard to get your head around it. I think Peel Thunder, I hate to say it for their point of view, but I just can't trust East Fremantle. I just don't know which East Freo are going to turn up. And that could be a good thing. It can be a bad thing, but I just think I'm trusting Peel to get their job done in this away fixture for them.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going with East Fremantle. I'm quite intrigued about what East Fremantle is going to do. They need to sense the urgency. I'm going with East Fremantle, but only by a kick. I reckon this one's going to be a great game, down to the wire football, but for me, East Fremantle, but just.
There's more on the line for them.
There is, yeah. They've got more to play for. Peel, they're on top of the ladder. They could drop down to 3rd, okay, but, they'll still be there in the double chance, given how tight the competition is. So they could afford to drop one. It'd be this one, but East Fremantle, they've got to sense the urgency here. It's a must-win. I'm going with the Sharks.
Yeah, one apiece then.
Big game, that one. East Fremantle and Peel Thunder on Saturday at Lane Group Stadium. And then, this is the main event of round 15. This is a heavyweight title fight. Swan Districts and Claremont live on Channel 7 from 2:40. Big crowd expected. Get yourselves down to Steel Blue Oval for this one. 7 wins in a row versus 6 wins in a row. It is amazing to see these teams in such winning form, and they come together in a big Titanic clash on Saturday.
Yeah, game of the year contender, as you said, and expect people to go out in droves to that one, especially Claremont. Obviously, the faithful and Swan Districts and Claremont have a very rich history together.
They
obviously, do. I think of the 2010 grand final.
Still the greatest grand final of all time.
And even going back to, some battles, in I guess the the older days or the 80s and things like that.
Back in the days where they had Jeff Miles, Phil Narkle, John Todd as coach as well, Jared Neesham as well, and Bruce Monteith back in those days as well. So they've got a great history together.
Yeah, it could be an early rehearsal for finals as well. Roiko and Bolton, I think that's the matchup that I'm looking forward to in the middle. I know Bolton spends a lot of time at half-back, but, I think he'll spend some time in the guts.
I reckon Ashley Prescott would need to get him up the guts, Jai Bolton, I reckon, because what he did against East Perth, and it goes to show Claremont can contend with the top sides. I mean, they beat Peel Thunder and East Perth in successive weeks because one reason, they put Jai Bolton right in the middle. That took the Thunder and East Perth off their game. They didn't know what to do with him. So if you put Bolton in the middle, that's going to catch Swan Districts off guard.
He's so often the saviour and just the one you can turn to when you need him most. And the Swans, we spoke on Tuesday about the flexibility of their forward line. And that's where someone like an Anthony Davis is a real one to watch for the Tigers. Probably didn't have his best outing on Saturday against the Bulldogs, but when he's at his best, he can really turn the tides. And I guess players feed off his form as well from a Tigers point of view.
I'll tell you what, Anthony Davis has got the toughest role, I reckon, against that flexible forward line of Swan Districts, especially Lee Coleman, who came back with a bang on Saturday with 6 goals. I reckon that matchup also could be decisive. If Coleman gets away from Davis and kicks a bag, I reckon that might go a long way.
And it's like, who do you turn to from a defensive point of view? I think Davis is the man, and it's like, there's so many options for the Swans, isn't there?
Absolutely. Would you turn, obviously, to Pacera maybe? Would you return to Barron or Sheldrick or even Sam Alvarez? Who knows? You'd even turn to Elliott as well. So they've got some numbers there that they can turn to down back. They could even turn to a Mountford and Hardesty as well, but they've been a bit off form over the last 2 games.
Yeah, I think the problem with the guys you previously mentioned, like your Barrons and your Alvarez, is they're doing so well in their other positions, and they're not key defenders. So,
True.
I know Barron's quite stocky, but I think they need someone with a bit more height, because when someone like Coleman's in the air, even Edwards plays above his height, it can be hard to stop, and you need to get the ball to ground.
Looking at the key stat of this game, for me, it's pretty much evenly matched, but I think the disposals per goal could be quite the key. 28 Swan Districts, 34 to Claremont as well. And we could mention another one. Swan Districts have averaged 31 more marks this season than Claremont. They're averaging 101 per game, Swan Districts. Now, that is outstanding because they've got so many tools, especially in that forward line. They've got Noddy and Blakely, who can not only play in the ruck, but also shift down back as well. And their versatility in general. I think they're a more versatile side than Claremont when you're matching them up on paper.
Yeah, the Doc Blakely takes... Yeah, that's what I was just saying, like the aerial ability and even backline. Like you mentioned the forward line there, but guys like Passini, not when he's back there as well. And even their midfielders, do wonders in the air. So... yeah, that has to be a watch for Claremont. I'm sure that will be something they'll be visiting throughout the week.
What I will say as well, if Claremont take this as a contested game and try to be stoppage heavy, it might backfire. Look at the last game, round 6 of this year. Swan Districts were able to close it out and win by 17 points. So if Swan Districts can take that away from Claremont and get on the burst, go after the loose ball and play the game towards the wings, open it up, that could make a huge difference in that game for the Swans.
I reckon Claremont have to be aware of Swan Districts the way they finish games.
Yes.
It's second to none. Like, it's probably the best in the competition, their ability to close out
It's better than
games.
last year. It's better than last year.
They overlap their run. They seem to get fitter and more into the game as it trickles along.
More composure, you would say. More composure amongst their experienced players, as well as some of their younger ones as well. Such incredible composure for a couple of young players that are still blossoming in that league side. So many factors to take in this game. It's Game of the Year contender, no doubt about it. And all that's left to do now is pick who wins.
Yeah,
who wins?
I'm on the Swans bandwagon for this week.
I'm on the Swans bandwagon as well. I'm going to go with the Swans, but it's only going to be a kick in it. I reckon Claremont are going to make it as close as anything, but I reckon the Swans will make it their 7th win in a row. And who knows, if they win, because East Perth have got the bye, and if Peel Thunder lose, who knows, they might threat for top spot on the ladder.
Mate, the roof at Bassendean will be off.
The roof of the Canberra, especially.
Yeah, it's, they've obviously been a bit starved in recent times. Obviously haven't made a grand final since 2010, so they're keeping a lid on it at the moment. There's a long way to go, but it's exciting times, and this will go a long, long way.
Oh, it's going to be a ripper game. We can't wait for it. Saturday at 2:40 at Steel Blue Oval. Expecting a big crowd there. Here's how you can win big at the WAFL this weekend.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. risking it all for the glory. Win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at wafl.com.au.
Okay, before we wrap things up today, as we mentioned, a slightly abbreviated episode with only 3 games. Ethan and I, during the week, have been asking you for your top 5 WAFL games. You've given your opinions, and we thank you all very, very much for it. We really appreciate it, and, after some good consideration so far in 2024, here are the top 5 games of season 2024 so far. Number 5, there's only one place to start. The very start, the first game, West Perth and Claremont on a Thursday night under the bright Joondalup lights. What a contest this one was.
Yeah, and what a way to kickstart the year as well. It was an electric atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. And the first in the WAFL Wonderland as well. It was a crowd of almost 4,500 there. It was just amazing. And the comeback from West Perth, 4 goals, each in that last quarter. They came back from a couple of goals down late. Keegan Knotts kicking that match-winning goal and sending West Perth into raptures. That was an amazing game, and I think that really sums up how close the season has been.
Yeah, nothing like a close game as well, especially when the crowd gets really into it. WAFL Wonderland, as you said, and yeah, it's a phenomenal concept.
And a night game at Joondalup. I must say the lights look bloody good on the cameras as well. They were absolutely magnificent. A great game to start. Number 4. We go to the Anzac Day weekend, round 5 on a Sunday afternoon. Let's say with about 30 seconds to go. Jackson McDonald marks the ball, the siren goes, and he's about 45 metres out. Cue Darren McDonald.
The Swan supporters are giving him his strength. 48 metres. Oh my goodness me. McDonald's got it home. What a heart stopper. The Sharks have snatched victory from the jaws of defeat.
I spare a thought for him losing his voice. He might have done a night of karaoke before, but that's number 4. Swan Districts and East Fremantle. And East Fremantle breaking Swan's hearts and winning by 2 points after the siren.
Yeah, and in front of the McDonald stand as well. You couldn't quite script it, and and then we spoke to McDonald as well, didn't we? The
Absolutely.
following days. So it'll stand out for a long time.
That's of course the McDonald game, the Jackson McDonald game. Kicking a goal from McDonald's stand, and it was called by Darren McDonald. We were all loving it. Indeed. 13 disposals he had that day, but also because it remained close all day. There was nothing in it between the two sides, and they were going at it like nobody's business. It was a hell of a game, and in front of a great crowd over there at Bassendean.
Yeah, and I think, touch wood, fingers crossed, Swans fans won't mind looking back at that now, because obviously they lost so many close games after the siren, etc. in the past, and now they're flying. So I think, for Swans' sake, it hasn't been the worst thing since then, their run of form.
It's been a silver lining, hasn't it? They've learnt a lot from those games. Now, number 3, from an East Fremantle win to an East Fremantle loss. Who would have thought we'd see West Coast beat the reigning premiers early in the season? That's number 3, based on the shock value of the result.
I reckon 0.1% of people tipped West Coast that day.
I still can't believe it. I had to look at the score that day, after a game I called that day, and I was like, what? Are you kidding? East Fremantle just lost to the Eagles of all teams. But credit to the Eagles. They were magnificent, especially in that second quarter.
Morning specialists. Let's run with that.
Yep, they are the morning specialists, the Eagles. You play a game at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. They thrive on that. But they were absolutely brilliant. And it goes to show, again, if you're 5% off your game, you're going to get beaten. And East Fremantle, they learnt that the hard way in round 3. Then we go to number 2, and this was a really emotional day because the week the week after WA Day, we lost the great John Todd, one of the all-time great WAFL coaches. And on June 15th of this year, Steel Blue Oval absolutely turned it on. The John Todd Memorial Cup game was a great game of footy, a little bit scrappy, but both teams, Swan Districts and South Fremantle, the teams that John Todd had the most success with in the WAFL, put on a great show.
A lot of emotion, and I think both teams, the way they conducted themselves and played the game, it's really was a great tribute to him.
It certainly was. Toddy, he'd be grinning from ear to ear with what he saw from down at Steel Blue Oval. It was absolutely magnificent. And also, it again highlighted what the Swans can do in tough situations.
Yeah, it did. They've come a long way. They're almost like a different side from 2023. There's probably no point in comparing, really.
Different side, maybe even than 10 weeks ago. When you look at how much close losses that they had, but how much close wins that they've had as well. It's been a complete difference. But that game is number 2 because of the emotion that was there, the significance behind it. Number 1,
drum roll.
That's right. We get a drum roll going. You can't go past the Perth Derby. The Perth Derby between West Perth and East Perth. One of the best Perth derbies I've seen in recent years. There's no doubt about that. Nothing in it all day. Big crowd, big game, great intensity, hotly contested footy to be won. Both teams not giving each other an inch. It went down to the wire and a close result in the end. That's the number one for 2024 so far.
Yeah, hard to argue. Harrison McCready, from memory, the hero in the end.
Yeah.
And for you, I mean, talk about losing your voice. So you did very well to not lose your voice, calling that exceptional on the call. And obviously, for you, that's a day you'll never forget. And it's going to be hard to beat for your broadcasting career.
I'd have to say. I mean, that one is close, in my personal top 5. That one is close to top spot. But to the top one is still Perth South Fremantle at Lathlane in 2020. I mean, that's what really shaped, where the WAFL was going from a broadcasting point of view as well. And a shout out to Matty Williamson and Ryan Ramage. Great job as always. That WA Day Derby, 6,000 over there at Pentanet Stadium. It was absolutely rocking. And I couldn't even hear the siren as well at the end because the noise was so loud because you're calling from an open space. But what an incredible atmosphere. I mean, that's what WAFL footy is all about. Getting the crowds in and getting to see a great game of footy.
Yeah, and for West Perth fans, that'll live long in the memory. They won't want the derby to be too far around the corner. They want it right now if they could. But
they want to win it.
Nonetheless, they'll have their chance for a bit of a revenge.
Yes, of course, that'll come in round 19. But that round 9 game, that one is certainly number one so far. What do you think? What's your number one game so far in 2024? Let us know in the comments below. That does it for today's edition of Around the WAFL. Great job, Rothy, as always. And we look forward to recapping 3 very important games next week.
Likewise, it's as we said off the top, it's D-Day for those 2 teams in particular. So, we'll know a thing or two this time next week. That's
no doubt about it. And we look forward to your company, listeners and viewers, on Tuesday and Thursday next week as we move to the business end of the run home to the finals. You can check out Around the WAFL on YouTube and where you get your podcasts and on our socials, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We look forward to your company next Tuesday.